Stelter, and it's time for Reliable Sources. And we have an A-list lineup for you this morning with former White House Press Secretary Jay Carney, Washington Post editor Marty Barron, and CNN's own John King. But we begin with Donald Trump in a very unusual position on the defensive, calling into various TV shows this morning, tweeting up a storm, scrambling to defend himself amid blanket criticism of John McCain. He described John McCain saying, quote, "He's not a war hero."
We had thousands and thousands of people, and he called them crazies. He insulted them. He should apologize to them, by the way. He insulted them, and then I insulted back. And frankly, what he's done with respect to the illegal immigration and what he's done for the veterans, he's done very, very poorly for the veterans.
You are not apologizing, and you are certainly not pulling out of the race, as some of your opponents have suggested.
Of course, they'd love to have me do that because I'm leading the pack. I am certainly not pulling out.
So Trump firing back this morning. We've asked him to call into this program as well. We will see if we can get him. Trump also told ABC's Martha Raddatz that the media is treating him, quote, very unfairly. This all started yesterday afternoon at a Republican presidential forum in Iowa. And to set it up, this is what Trump originally said.
He's not a war hero.
He's a war hero.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Do you agree with that?
He's a war hero because he was captured, okay? You can have, and I believe perhaps he's a war hero.
You can hear the crowd's reactions to those comments, which are really interesting. Trump later said all sorts of things. He contradicted himself, said he didn't say it, doubled down, continued to criticize McCain. You know, up until now, it's exactly these qualities, provocative, unpredictable, rich enough not to give a damn, that drove Trump to the top of the presidential primary heap. But when he went after McCain, Republican rivals sensed an opening. The condemnations were immediate. They're continuing this morning. Here's two examples from the morning shows here on CNN and NBC.
It's not just absurd, it's offensive, it's ridiculous, and I do think it is a disqualifier as commander-in-chief.
Until Mr. Trump apologizes directly to John McCain and also to the veterans of this country, I don't think he has the character or the temperament to hold the highest position in this country.
So is a campaign that was born in controversy about to die in controversy? Will Trump still be on stage when debate season begins in just a couple of weeks? Let's bring in two guests. Rick Wilson, a Republican media consultant, no fan of Trump, and Nate Coen, a Washington correspondent for the New York Times. Welcome to you both.
Thanks so much, Brian.
Good to be with you.
Nate, your article yesterday for The Upshot, you wrote about the Trump campaign's turning point. Let me read part of what you said. You call Trump's campaign a media-driven surge, and you predict a media-driven bust now. Why is it that you think it's all downhill for Trump now?
Donald Trump has received a lot of media attention so far. That's helped him get to the top of the polls, but there has been very little scrutiny of his campaign. People have tended to treat him as a matter of entertainment. His past policy views have not been scrutinized. The positions that he's held, which are controversial, do have some resonance within the Republican Party. Now what you're going to see is that the rest of the Republican Party is going to rally against him. We're already seeing that with the comments that you already just aired from Marco Rubio and Rick Perry. That will totally change the way that he's covered for the rest of the campaign. He will now face scrutiny from across the party and from the media. That will eventually blunt his surge in the polls and eventually reverse it.
And you're saying this is basically scientific. This is how it works. It's a boom and bust cycle.
Well, I don't think there's any science to it in the sense that, you can predict that his poll numbers will be at 5% in a week or in 2 months. But I think that the basic mechanism at play here is predictable. These media-driven boomlets generally stop once the media decides that, we actually have to scrutinize this candidate. To this point, Trump has not been subjected to the same sort of scrutiny that is typically accompanied by candidacies from traditional politicians. I think that decision is understandable. I can understand why producers and editors have not wanted to treat him like a serious politician. But the change in the tone of the conversation that began yesterday is going to lead to more scrutiny towards Donald Trump. And his campaign is not built to withstand that kind of questioning. He has a record that does not appeal to big chunks of the Republican Party. He has supported Hillary Clinton in the past. He has supported universal health care. These things are all going to come to the forefront now, and it will eventually take a toll on his numbers.
I hear all what you're saying, Nate, but Rick, I have to ask you, given that we've seen Trump defending himself this morning, trying to pivot back to veterans, saying he is supportive of veterans, but doesn't think McCain's doing a good enough job supporting veterans himself, is there a possibility here, or even a probability, that Trump's fans stick with him?
Look, Trump's fans, the dead enders in the Trump world are going to be there. They probably comprise less than 10% of the party. They're very activated on the one issue that Trump has shouted the loudest on, which is immigration. But the fact of the matter is, Donald Trump yesterday insulted a man who, no matter if you disagree with John's politics, and sometimes I do disagree with John's politics in a lot of areas. If you disagree with his politics, that's one thing. But he questioned the patriotism, and he questioned the service, and he questioned the fact that this man is not a hero who served 6.5 years as a POW under the most extreme torture. It was one of the most vile moments I've seen in American politics in a long time. And, you know, our politics have gotten pretty base in a lot of ways, but Trump really lowered the bar yesterday, and I think he disqualified himself with an awful lot of the party.
But why only now? I mean, I've seen a lot of comments online. Here's one I'll read. It says, Trump has been calling Mexicans rapists for weeks, but the thing that will finally sink in with journalists is him being mean to John McCain. Do you think that's a fair critique that Trump has said all sorts of things, and it's only now for some reason that this is the line that's been drawn?
Well, Trump has had command of the operational tempo of this thing, where he's been setting the agenda in the media. And I'll be honest, a lot of the candidates were really struggling to try to find a way to not piss off Trump's giant legion of very loud, very politically naive, but enthusiastic supporters. And they were trying to find a way. I mean, I think Ted Cruz played a very dangerous game embracing Trump this entire time. But, you know, I do think there's something on the right that's happening, because yesterday, Nate's article was definitive about the bubble. But yesterday on the right, in Breitbart, Sarah Rumpf wrote a piece in Breitbart yesterday that took Trump apart on this and went through all the Republican candidates going at it. And so on the far right, you're now seeing some fragments inside of the Trump movement. And I think it's going to get worse from here. I think he's off agenda now.
To your point, let me put up data on screen from Signal Labs. They're looking at sentiment online about Trump. You'll see two word clouds here. On Friday, 45% negative sentiment. On Saturday, 60% negative. So a sudden jump in negative sentiment. And you see McCain becomes one of the big words in that word cloud on Saturday. Nate, to you, I want to ask you about the press's treatment of Trump along the way. Do you think he's been taken far too seriously until now?
Well, I think he's received a lot of media attention, far more than any of the other candidates have received. I think that's understandable. He's an actual celebrity, but he has not received the scrutiny that typically comes with being a real presidential candidate. As I said,
we haven't
I think
been hearing about his
understandable.
past. Yeah, we haven't been. I mean,
Yeah.
New Yorkers know all these stories, all these scandals about Trump that the rest of the country might not know. I mean, Rick, I do wonder if that's something that needs to be filled in by journalists in the week to come if Trump does continue to poll well.
Well, it certainly would be something that you would think would be a part of the journalistic, responsibility. But right now, it has been the Trump spectacle. It has been the big show. And so they've enjoyed, the back and forth of Trump insults X and then X responds, and, back the ping pong of that. But, if he stays in this race, he's going to have to start facing a lot more scrutiny. And the other candidates are going to start dragging him onto the field and beating him with sticks. Because, the thing like yesterday, John's done nothing for veterans. Well, this is not exactly true. And it's an opportunity for the other candidates to come out and talk about how they've tried to address these matters. It's just, he's gotten away with an awful lot because he's a celebrity and a television personality. And honestly,
by the way,
a lot of the effect, yeah.
Well, it's also because he's available, right? They're talking about that ping pong back and forth. Right. You described it so well. It's because he says yes to interview requests. He calls into shows, he's actually available. A lot of other candidates are not.
He also gets
your phone's going to ring any minute now.
Nate, I'm sorry. Go ahead after the last one.
He also gets a lot of clicks, and there's a lot of viewer interest in him. He's a real celebrity. If Kim Kardashian ran for president, she would get a tremendous amount of media attention as well.
And on that very interesting note, I'll leave it there. Rick and Nate, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
President Kardashian. Wouldn't have thought of that. Well, journals everywhere have been wrestling with this very issue.